This room is very strange. On the wall there are many buttons. When you press a button, a random object will fall out. This guy in pajamas just woke up and found himself in a white room. He saw a button on the wall, so he was curious and tried pressing it. Suddenly, countless angels appeared on the wall, but after a while they disappeared. He was scared and screamed. After a while, he calmed down. He started pressing the buttons on the wall. Then the toothbrush fell out. He switched to another button and continued pressing the speaker. The flower pot and the antique vase fell from the wall. Suddenly, he felt interested, so he tried pressing a button continuously. One pair of chopsticks after another flew out of the wall very quickly. He accidentally touched another button nearby. He was in so much pain that he screamed. He angrily pressed another button. This button suddenly moved, then a butt grew out of the wall. Oh my God, the smell was a bit strong. He was so angry that he was fuming. He picked up the speaker and continued to press the button on the radio wall. Teddy bears, protective masks, and all kinds of things appeared.
Things were scattered all over the room, but he still couldn't find a button to help him go out. He wore a mask and lay on the chair. He was so hungry that he didn't want to move anymore. He was annoyed and threw the ball away. He accidentally hit a button and a plate of sushi fell out, but there was only sushi without soy sauce. He pressed the buttons next to it, but no matter which button he pressed, he got was still sushi. He was helpless and could only pick up the piece of sushi and stuff it in his mouth. The sushi had no taste at all and was extremely hard to swallow. He tried to swallow all the plates of sushi. After he finished eating, he conveniently pressed a button next to him and a bottle of soy sauce fell out. He angrily threw the bottle of soy sauce away. He was so bored that he rolled on the ground and pressed another button. A pair of fashionable glasses fell out. He put on his glasses and at that moment he saw an angel. The angel told him to press his button. He laughed happily. He thought that maybe this was the button to open the door that could get him out of this place. He did not hesitate to press the button. Suddenly the room was dark. On the wall behind appeared a huge countdown clock. Oh my God, is this room about to explode? He was scared and kept pressing the button, but it was useless. The clock was still counting down, and suddenly a huge peach appeared on the ceiling. Slowly descending, a strong air current hit him, causing him to fall to the ground, angrily shouting to couldn't escape Ra. He obediently stayed in the room reading comics. After reading from Volume 1 to Volume 5, he wanted to continue reading Volume 6, so he pressed the button. But from inside the wall fell Raw Volume 7. He changed to another button, which was Volume 8, then to Volume 9. Still didn't give up, changing another button behind him. Suddenly a door appeared at this time. He was still concentrating on finding something, so he didn't pay attention to the door. When the door was about to close, he finally saw it. You can stay in a room without a phone or Wi-Fi. How long this guy in pajamas had a hard time finding the door to Ra. But the door closed, he randomly pressed another button, a black man ran out, then hid in the opposite wall. He wondered why this person could go in and out, but if he changed to another button, a stream of water would pour straight into his head. He kept trying and finally found the button that made the door appear. He rushed to the door, but the button bounced and the door immediately closed. He pressed the button again and ran with all his might. As soon as he got there, the door closed. He used his foot to press the button and gained momentum to run forward. The button still bounced and he failed. He held the fly swatter and hit it hard, then ran, but it still didn't work. He then took a jump rope and used the rope to reduce the distance from him to the door. This time, he still failed. His hand was ready on the button on the cart and his 2 feet kicked hard against the wall to gain momentum. As a result, the cart just spun around and didn't run straight. He pressed the button again. This time he didn't let go of his hand and the door didn't close. He carried the flower vase to press on the button, but the flower vase was too light, so the button pushed it up. He thought to himself that he just needed to fill the vase with water and let it press on the button. He pressed the button to let the water flow, but unexpectedly the water only flowed to the right place. He couldn't directly pour water into the vase, so he had to use every way to make it. The vase was full of water, but the amount of water in the vase was too little. He thought of a new way to fill the jar with sushi. He kept pressing until the jar was full. The jar was so heavy that he couldn't lift it. He reached inside to get some sushi out, but couldn't. He used chopsticks to pick up each piece out, but he forgot which button opened the door, so he had to try one by one. The black man appeared and coincidentally kicked the jar, causing it to break immediately. He was both frustrated and desperate. He shouted again, picked up the pieces of sushi and put them on the button. The door opened again. He hurriedly took more sushi and put them on top, but the sushi couldn't press the button down and the button bounced back. He took tape to cover the button and stood there watching for a while. Seeing that it didn't bounce back, he hurriedly ran away, but at this moment, the sound of tape being torn rang out and the button continued to bounce. Unexpectedly, the steel piece could not hold the button on this side. He was still diligently sticking the other side. The button had been pushed up with tape, and when it reached the door also collapsed. His butt was hit by the door. He cried out in despair and gave up the idea of escaping. Get out of here. One day he woke up and was about to brush his teeth when he found out that the toothpaste was gone. He forgot which button the toothpaste was on, so he just pressed it. Suddenly, a rope hung down from the sky. He thought he could get out with this rope. This guy in pajamas was stuck in the room. At that moment, a rope appeared, giving him hope again. He pressed the button, grabbed the rope, then used his foot to kick the door open button. He swung to the other side. Finally, he arrived before the door fell. He was extremely happy. But at this moment, he saw another door that was locked and could not be opened. He was hit by the door again. He angrily used his foot to kick the wall. Unexpectedly, a yellow key suddenly appeared in the air, but it disappeared in a moment. It turned out to be the key to the other door. Now he didn't know which button it was. He just pressed randomly. A dog appeared. It was so fierce, he was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He tried again. This time he guessed correctly. The key spun in the air and disappeared so he wouldn't mistake the button. He prepared to find something to mark it. His finger pointed at the button and then slowly backed away. He took the piece of meat to mark the result. He marked it wrongly. Then what appeared was the fierce dog from earlier. He wondered where he had gone wrong. He stubbornly tried again, but this time it was right. He hurriedly marked it again. He continued to use the method he used earlier, swinging on the rope, but still couldn't reach the key. He saw the first toilet plunger. He swung on the rope, then pressed the toilet plunger against the wall, pressed the key button, then swung back to get the key. When he got the key, he used his foot to step on the door opening button. Finally, he succeeded. He hurriedly inserted the key, but the door still didn't open. He raised his head and saw that there was another password lock on his head. He had no choice but to go back to the old room. This time it was no exception. He screamed in pain, pulled out the toilet plunger, and threw it away. He didn't expect to touch the wrong button, causing the black man to appear. The two looked at each other in embarrassment. The black man looked at him as if to say, "Call me. What are you doing here?" The black man left. Only then did he realize that there were 3 white numbers on his head, the code to open the door. 3 numbers. So that was the password he needed to find. And then he continued the previous operations, successfully entered the correct password to open the door. Inside was too small to open the door. He was stuck in the middle of the door, could not go out, and could not get in. Inside was covered in black. He began to remember the room just now. In there was food, drinks, and even toys. At least he did not starve to death. He did not know how long he had been in there. The sushi outside had all gone bad. At this moment, he suddenly felt the wind blowing. He raised his hand to push the door unexpectedly. As soon as it opened, light shone in. He hurriedly rushed out, finally found the exit, but this exit turned into another room. His colorful pajamas also lost all color. He tiredly and desperately looked at the door, gradually closing on the wall. Countless angels appeared. He continued to press the button, but this time nothing fell out. But he did not know that the buttons he pressed were controlling the world outside the boxing player. Suddenly, his neck lengthened his head as hard as a hammer hitting the bell. In the room, the guy in pajamas looked at the exit above him. He clung to the button and climbed up. He didn't expect that every button he pressed was causing the outside world to change. He didn't know how long he had been climbing. He finally reached the exit. There was a giant button, and he didn't hesitate to press it again. What will happen next? The movie doesn't say clearly, maybe this button is the end of the world. This movie is called Simple, the question of the movie. If you are in this room one day, what do you hope the most button will have something appear? Please send your answer in the comment section below. Thank you for your interest. Follow hello and see you again.